Hey folks, welcome to my shop here in Colorado. I'm having a nice cup of morning coffee on Sunday morning here, and I need to sharpen all of my tools. So I thought I would go ahead and turn the camera on and let you guys see how I sharpen my tools. I'm also doing this today to benefit the Ukulele Kids Club. It's a great 501(c) organization. It's a charity that helps provide music therapy to children or kids that have serious health conditions. And so as a token of your appreciation for me presenting this knowledge this morning, I would certainly appreciate it if you would go out to the Ukulele Kids Club and make a donation. Some of you have already done that through my Facebook page, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm sure they appreciate it as well. The link will appear in the chat box there. My wife is over there running the chat for us here, and my son Tiago is behind the camera. And hopefully we'll have no glitches here. We can show you how to sharpen the tools here. But the link to the Ukulele Kids Club donation page is the UKC, Ukulele Kids Club, ukc.org/donations. So I would greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure they would also if you could venture over there sometime throughout the stream here, perhaps before, perhaps after, and just make a small donation. No matter how small it is, everything helps. And I hope everybody's staying safe during the quarantine that we're all going through here. So let's get started, huh? Have a quick sip of the morning coffee here. Now, I've got my computer set up here right next to my work table here, and I'm going to try and kind of follow along with the chat here. But if something comes up important, Adriana's off camera here. Adriana, if something comes up important, you just let me know, and I'll try and address questions as we go. I want to make this as interactive as possible, as interactive as can be with the technology that we're using today. So let's talk about some of the tools that I sharpen here in my shop. They're the tools that I use mostly when I'm giving my classes here. So I have a bench plane, which is Lee Neilson. This just happens to be number 5. I also have a Lee Neilson number 4 bronze, and then a couple of block planes. I have just a small, inexpensive Stanley, and I've also got a small Lee Neilson block plane. And I also like the Lee Neilson, I believe they call this the violin maker's plane or the instrument maker's plane. I'm not sure exactly what they call that. Spoke shave, very good. That's what I use for carving necks. And then I have some chisels. Believe it or not, the chisels I use the most here in the shop are the 1-inch wide ones for some reason. I really like the wide ones, even though I'm just working on small fan braces, for example, for classical guitars. So there's a few steps to sharpening tools here. One of them is if the tool's right out of the box. If the tool's right out of the box and you need to do a little bit more work to the tool, which includes flattening the back, honing the primary bevel, and then honing the secondary bevel, which is the business end of the tool, the cutting edge. Depending on how much you spend on your tool, for example, this is a Lee Neilson tool with custom Cocobolo handles. Depending on how much you spend is going to depend on how much work you have to do. The higher end tools tend to be flatter on the back to begin with, and you have less work to get them ready to go right out of the box. So let's talk about how I sharpen. Some of the tools that I use are diamond blades, or not blades, but stones. And those work really well. And I also use water stones. I'm really partial to the Norton water stones. And these have their drawbacks in that you have to flatten them. And they get out of flat very quickly, so you need to keep flattening them throughout the process. The diamond stones, they don't ever have to be flattened. So that's a plus. And I use a combination of them depending on what I'm doing. So let me just check my chat box here. We'll look off camera real quick, see if there's any questions coming right out of the gate here. Say hello to Paco over there in Spain. Hey, Paco, how you doing? Drew Boyd, who did the marketing online video course with me this year. Welcome aboard. I see Jay Litke. Jay Litke is the person that turned me on to the Ukulele Kids Club. I filmed the advanced ukulele building course with Jay last year, and just had a wonderful time there in North Carolina at his place with him and his wife, Corey. And he's the one that turned me on to the Ukulele Kids Club. So let's talk about a tool that has never been sharpened, coming right out of the box. And I'm going to have my son tilt my camera down so that we can work down here and you can see what's going on. Hopefully the camera won't fall out of the tripod there. There we go. So we need to flatten the back of the stone. All of my tools have been already flattened. So I do mostly what I call maintenance sharpening instead of right out of the box. I've already done the right out of the box thing, but I'm going to walk you through it if you just happen to have a new tool. So the first thing you need to do is flatten the back of the tool. Now, technically, all you need to do is just flatten it, just the first little bit there up by the business edge. You don't need to flatten the whole back. However, as a matter of pride, on my higher end tools, I like to go ahead and flatten the entire back and make it a mirror finish. And that means, in my case, taking it all the way up to 8,000 grit on the Norton Waterstones. And so I go ahead and just make a whole mirror out of that. And that has its advantages when you, for example, when you're doing purflings and miters and stuff, you can just look in the back of the tool and see the mirror as you're working. And I show that how to do that in my online courses. So you need to flatten the back of the tool. How far you want to take it, it's just a matter of pride and how much coffee you've had in the morning, how much elbow grease you want to do. Now, I tend to use the diamond stones when I'm flattening the back of the tool because it goes quickly. And I have 4 diamond stones here, and on the side of it, it tells you what the grit is. This one happens to be a fine. Here's my extra fine. And over here we have a coarse and an extra coarse. So there's a coarse, and here's an extra coarse. And so I would start with the extra coarse to flatten the back of the tool. Now this goes for chisels, goes for plain blades as well. You always want to flatten the back of the tool. Let me talk about something else I've got going on here on my bench. This is my sharpening station. It just happens to be a breadboard that I picked up at my local big box Luthery Supply warehouse, also known as Home Depot or your local hardware store or someplace, any place where you can get some of that plastic that has all the alphabet in front of it. Those work really well. And I've ripped off a couple of strips and just stuck them to the side, and it's about the size of my blade, or my, I keep calling these things blades, about the size of my stones, and they fit in there really nice. However, I did notice last time I went to buy Norton stones that they've changed the size on me just a little bit, and they don't quite want to fit in there like they used to. But this allows you to get moisture on your bench. Notice I also have a towel under here, and allows you to get moisture on your bench. Also, I have some stops over here that have predetermined angles on them, and I'll talk about that when we get into honing the primary blade and the primary bevel and the secondary bevel. And it looks like my cameraman here, Mr. Thiago, behind the camera here, has something for me. What's up, Thiago?
Elaine Seat has a question.
Elaine Seat has a question. All right, read the question to me, please.
How is the best way to flatten big blades like the spoke shave?
Big blades like the spoke shave. Well, I'm going to go through that here in a minute. But it's exactly the same, Elaine. You just pop out your blade, like so, and turn it over, and just rub it on the back. Now, since I've already, like I said, I've already done this, so I don't want to mess up what I've done here. But I will jump over to my fine stone here and show you how I do it. For a lubricant for the diamond stones, I just use water. I live in a very dry environment here in Colorado, so I don't have a problem with rust. If you have a problem with rust, then you want to use, I've heard of people using like window cleaner, Windex is a brand here we have in the States, something like that, that will lubricate as you work here. You don't want to work on the diamond stones when they're dry because it would damage the diamond. So you just come in on the back side like this and just rub it on the back side like that until you get it nice and flat. Now, when I first got this tool, I started with the extra coarse and I went all the way up to the extra fine, and then I put it on the 8,000 grit Waterstone from Norton and made it a really nice mirror finish. So I'm not going to go into all that again because I'll damage the work that I've already done. But that's how you would do it. For you guys that like only Waterstones, well, that's fantastic. That's the way I learned. I just find that I speed it up a little bit more these days with the diamond stones. But if you want to use the Waterstones, I have several here. Let me just show you what I've got. I've got a flattening stone, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I've got a 220 and a 1,000. This is a combination stone. So it's 220 on one side, 1,000 on the other. Of course, 220 is going to be doing most of your work. Then I've got 1,000 on the other side of that. I got a 4,000 and an 8,000. Mostly these days, all I use is the 4,000 and the 8,000 because I'm just doing the maintenance sharpening. I'm not starting all the way from scratch. And you should never have to go all the way back to the 220 and 1,000 unless you drop your tool. Happened to a friend of mine once. It's not a pretty sight. If you want to see a grown man cry after he spent hours and hours working, drop the tool, and yeah, you can bring a grown man to tears. So I don't recommend that. But you need to flatten the stones so that the back of the tool is flat. And here's how I do that. A couple of ways. Let me start by introducing this stone here that I showed you. This is a flattening stone. You can get them from Norton. I believe I got this set at Woodcraft. And I usually wait until they go on sale and have free shipping or 10% off or whatever, and I just buy the lot. You can buy them in combinations, or you can buy them as one stone. For example, this is a combination. It used to be 4,000 on one side, 8,000 on the other. And I've worn all the way through the 4,000 side. However, the 8,000 side is still pretty thick, so I still use this one. But you can also just get stones that are not combination. The whole stone is 4,000 or 8,000. I find that the stones that I use the most when you're setting up the tools are 220 and 1,000. So if you want to get that rather than a combination, just get the regular 1,000 and the regular 220. Looks like we have another question from the cameraman. What you got, Thiago?
Okay, I don't exactly know how to pronounce this, but I'm going to try my best.
All right.
Gayesh says, what are your thoughts on oil stones?
Oil stones. Yeah, when I was a kid growing up in Boy Scouts, we were taught to use oil stones all the time. And that's how we would sharpen our pocket knives and things like that. It's a little messy. I don't recommend it, and it's hard. In my experience has been the water stones, I can get that mirror finish, and I haven't been able to ever do that on an oil stone. So I prefer the water stones or the diamond stones. I think that's the way to go. All right, good enough. Let me have a sip of Joe here, and we'll keep right on working. I hope this is beneficial. If it is, please, like I said, I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. I gotta sharpen my tools anyway, so I might as well do it. But I'm doing this to help the Ukulele Kids Club. I stated that at the beginning of the broadcast here. So please make a journey over there to theukc.org/donations. Make a quick little donation, and I'm sure you're going to benefit from this and from helping the kids. Also, it's a nonprofit, so it's a tax write-off. All right. If we don't have any more questions, I think I was the point where I was going to show how to flatten the stones. So, Chow, if you could bring the camera back down here, we will flatten the stones. All right, so to flatten the stones, there's a couple ways to do it. One is to use a flattening stone, and you can buy these wherever you buy the Norton stones. And I just take a pencil and run it across the top of the stone like this. And then I come in with the flattening stone and run it across like that. Now, I don't know how this is picking up on the camera with the latency and the delay here. It might just look like I'm not doing anything, but I'll try and go in slow motion here. That's the way you flatten the stones till all the pencil lines are gone away. And right off camera here to my right, I've got a Tupperware thing full of water, so I just dip it in there and make sure that all the pencil lines are gone. And I'm going to go ahead, as long as we're doing this, I might as well go ahead and do this with the 4,000 grit and also the 8,000 grit. And here we go. Dip this in my water here off camera. And this is my 4,000 grit. And my son and my daughter, who never come down to the shop and see what I'm doing down here, are learning how to sharpen tools today too. So this is a bonus for them. Even the shop dog will be down here in a little bit, Big Duke, so he can see what's going on. So there we go. That one is flat. And then let's do the 8,000 here. Thiago and Adriana, you guys keep me posted if there's any questions. Everything's good. Oh, we got a question. What you got, Thiago?
There's a question from Dopamine Guitars in Portuguese and a question from Brody Cobb.
All right, we got one in Portuguese coming up. All right, let's see what we got here. Como você faz para deixar as pedras Norton lisas novamente após muito uso? Ah, all right. So let me translate into English. He's asking how I make the Norton stones nice and smooth again after a lot of use. Well, I never let them get completely out of flat. As I'm sharpening it, I will take the flattening stone and flatten them all up again. It's very important, especially with your wider blades, like your plain blades, that you always start with a flat stone. And if you need to, throughout the sharpening process, go ahead and do it again so that you make sure that it stays flat. I'm going to do this off camera over my water bucket here so that I can keep the mess isolated over here. So I hope that answers that question. Next question.
Next question is from Brody Cobb. Are you going to demonstrate how to tune up a card scraper?
Yes, sir. Brody, I'm going to show you how to do a card scraper. One of the most useful tools with us luthiers. Gee, I'm getting a workout here. I should have done this before I started this broadcast. Holy cow. Go ahead with another question there, Chuggle.
Another question from Rob Corcoran. I hope I pronounced that right.
Okay.
What do you use for the flattening stone?
What do you use for the flattening stone? This is a dedicated flattening stone. You can buy these from Norton, and they're made to flatten. That's hence the name, flattening stone. And I'm going to show you another method here also to flatten a stone that you don't have to go out and buy anything. All right. So there's the 8,000. It is ready to go. Another question there, Tiago.
Another question from Dmitry Merkulov. What's your flattening stone grit?
I don't know. It's just whatever it is. It's probably about 220, 320, something like that. I just buy them from Norton, and I have no idea what it is. But it is pretty coarse. And it doesn't matter if it's coarse. You can go ahead and use it on the fine stones. Okay? I told you I was going to show you another way to flatten a stone without having to go out and spend any money. And, well, you got to spend a little money. You need a piece of marble or granite or something. This is just a tile I got from my local big box luthier supply warehouse, a.k.a. Home Depot or Lowe's. And I just set it on my sharpening station like this, come in and get it wet with a little bit of moisture here. And then come in. This just happens to be 220 grit wet dry paper. That's probably good, or you could use also 320 would probably work well. And then you come in and just like before, take your pencil, mark up your stone. Let's put a little moisture on here. And then come in and use this flat surface to flatten your stone. It is very important that you flatten your stones before you start working. If not, you're going to be putting the contour of this into your tool, and the technical term for that is bad. You want to make sure that all your stones are flat, so therefore your plain blades and your chisels are all flat. So that's another way you can come in and just do like that. Yes, another question.
Two questions, one from Heidi and one from Fernando. Heidi says, how do you sharpen curved spoke shades?
How do you sharpen curved spoke shades? Well, I don't use a curved spoke shave. I prefer the flat ones. But there is a way to do that. I'm not going to go into the curved today. I have a video out on YouTube with Brazilian luthier João Casillas, where we actually show how to sharpen the rounded blades here. It's not difficult at all. And I'll refer you to that video here for the sake of time, because, you know, we could be here all day chatting and sharpening. But this is another way that you can sharpen. Now, for those of you that do any amount of sharpening, John, get it back on my face if you could here. We're going to try and raise the camera here again without losing it out of the tripod. So for those of you that do any amount of sharpening at all, there's several ways to sharpen tools. This is just one way. This is what I was taught, and this is what I do. However, there's several ways. You can even use machines these days, the Tormac or Tormac, whatever it's called. There's a lot of different ways to do it. There's even the bare bones method, the scary sharp method. I don't know if you folks have heard of the scary sharp method, which is just sandpaper, and you use sandpaper the whole time. The problem I've had with that method is that as you run your honing guide and your tool across it, it creates a little ripple right on the paper, right in front of the blade, and has a tendency to roll it a little bit. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I've never been able to have that work for me, but some people have good success with what they call the scary sharp method, if you're interested in that. All right, Jago, you got another question for me?
Yes. So Fernando said, is the flattening stone just a regular diamond stone?
It's not a diamond stone. It's made out of some type of composite material. Where'd it go? Let's back off the camera here. It's made out of some type of composite material. You know, a stone, just like your sharpening stones. But I guess you could use a diamond stone. Sure, why not? If whatever works for you. But if you don't want to go out and get the Norton sharpening or flattening stone, just use a piece of marble or granite with some sandpaper on it, and that works well enough. All right. No more questions?
I just want to announce that the Ukulele Kids Club Incorporated is in the stream chat right now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ukulele Kids Club, for joining us here. You're going to learn all about sharpening as well. So thank you for taking the time to do this, and I hope this is beneficial to the Ukulele Kids Club once again, and they can have some donations. Yes, sir.
Answer a couple questions.
Okay, a couple more questions.
Okay, so Ramon says, gouges always give me fits. Will you demonstrate gouge sharpening?
Gouge sharpening. Okay, once again, the gouge, let me see if I can find one down here. There's one. I don't use this tool a lot in my shop, but the way that you would sharpen it is fairly easy. Most people think you would use a honing guide. Yeah, Chugga, you're going to need to drop that camera again there if you could. And we're kind of jumping ahead here where I wanted to go with this. We're jumping right into gouges, and I haven't given you the basics of tool sharpening yet, but I'll just talk about it real quick, and then you can fill in the gaps as we go here. All right, so the way you do a gouge, rather than a honing guide and coming in like this and trying to roll it like this, all you do is come in and just roll it like this, sideways. And it's hard to flatten the back on these because they're rounded already, so you don't want to flatten the back, but you do want kind of a nice, I'll call it level, because it is still radius, but you want it flat, let's say on the radius there, and then come in and do it this way. And there's a lot of stuff available on YouTube that will show you how to sharpen a gouge, but this is how I would do it. Just come in sideways like this. Oh, my daughter has showed up. Oh, wow, Marcia, what have you got there for us? Wow. Oh, my daughter has just shown up with some fresh Brazilian cheese bread. And those of you who have come and studied with me here in my course, you know that we serve Brazilian cheese bread and Brazilian coffee. So, wow. Here you go. If you guys want a piece, I'm sure my kids do. Look at that. There comes a hand in off the camera there. Wow. Brazilian cheese bread and coffee just makes the sharpening go by so much quicker, because this is kind of one of those things you just have to get in your zone. I like to use the word zen at least once per class because it makes me sound sophisticated. Doesn't make your tools any sharper, doesn't make your guitar sound any better. Thank you. Doesn't make it sound any better, but if I use the word zen, it makes me sound like I know what I'm talking about. So you just have to kind of get in your zen mode here and do your thing. So let's get back to what we were doing. So I hope that answered the question on how to do the gouges. That's how I would do it. Some people do it on a grinding wheel, you know, those that are made specifically for sharpening radius tools, and come in and hit it on a strop afterwards and get it to a mirror finish. And a lot of your carvers will do that. They will just kind of skip this step and just hone it lightly and then quickly run over to a buffing wheel and do it that way. That's one way to do it. I find that it doesn't keep my tools square, and I'm a little more OCD about it, so I don't do it that way. But the carvers do that, and it works great. So, yes, sir.
Jason Brown says, can you use sandpaper?
You can. I mean, I just mentioned a few minutes ago the scary sharp method, where people just use sandpaper to sharpen their tools. And yes, that's a valid way of doing it. I haven't been able to make it work to my satisfaction. So I prefer to use the stones. All right, let's get into some stones here. Let's show how to sharpen some stuff here. Chuck, you want to drop that camera again for me, sir, please? Mm-hmm. So all of our stones are flat, and that's the first step. Make sure that the stones are flat, and then you can start flattening the back of the tool. I would start on a brand new tool. I would start at about 220, and even sandpaper would work, and come in and start flattening the back of the tool. This one's already been flattened up to 8,000, so all I'm going to do is just fine tune it here. And you want a nice mirror finish on the back of the tool. Oh, looks like Larry Atha from Alabama signed in there, and he's saying hello to Duke, pet Duke for him. We were outside this morning. It's 65 degrees and sunny this morning here in Colorado, and so we were out blowing bubbles for Duke to chase in the backyard, and he absolutely loves that. So he's upstairs with his tongue hanging out, drooling right now because we wore him out. So you want to flatten the back of the tool. Now that could be very simple depending on how much you spend on the tool. It could take you a while. You just got to get in that Zen mode. See how sophisticated I sound when I say that word, Zen? All right. Since this has already been done, all I'm doing is just getting the mirror back on it, and that's ready to go. So now we're going to go concentrate on the business end, the primary and the secondary bevel. Yes, sir. Another question.
So Randy says, I'm one state over, save one for me, so we got to save a punch gauger for him.
Got to save some cheese bread for him, okay.
Also, Randy says, looks like the side method can be used on a scorp. Is that true?
On a strop.
Scorp.
What's a scorp?
It says scorp. It might be strop.
I don't know what a scorp is. I think maybe you're referring to a strop, and I'll introduce a strop here in a little bit. Right now, I want to talk about the business end, which is going to do our cutting as our primary and secondary bevel. There's two bevels that go onto the business end of the tool. One is the primary. In other words, that's just the angle. And the secondary is just the business end, just that little part right out front there. Yes, sir.
Steve J said, do you have to strop your tools after sharpening on all of the successive grits?
I do not. I only strop on my chisels. I do not strop on my hand planes. And when I get into the stropping section of the dog and pony show here, I will talk more about that. Right now, we just need to determine the angle. Now, I determined a long time ago on all the tools in my shop, I put a 35-degree bevel on the primary bevel. And the reason for that is it's easy. I was all the time readjusting my honing guide to this angle, to that angle. And so I just put a 35-degree angle on everything for the primary bevel. Now, most chisels out there are around the 25 to 30-degree range. And I've gone all the way to 35, which means, and some of my students that have studied with me have commented on that, when you go to use the chisel, you really need to stand up on it to find the business end. Once you find the business end, you're golden. You can do what you need to do. But I just find that it's easier for me to just set everything up to the same bevel, and that's what I use. Most of my planes are already at 35 anyway, so I just had to change my chisels from about a 30 to a 35. So here's my spoke shape. Let's start with that one. I like to start with my widest blades first because we took all of that time to get these stones flat. And if we come in and use the narrow stuff first, then we wind up getting waves and then we have to flatten more often. So I just start with the widest one since everything's already flat and ready to go. Since this angle needed to be changed, it wasn't quite at 35 degrees over the time I've changed it with all the sharpening I've done. So I've decided to re-hone this, and I did this off camera. I already went on my diamond stone extra coarse. So now I'm going to go coarse diamond stone. You could also use your water stones to do this. And I need something to hold this at the correct angle. The definition for that is honing guide. Here's just a typical honing guide. And I told you I was going to tell you, hey, there's the shop dog. Hey, Duke, how you doing, buddy? Hey, the shop dog's walking around here, so if you see some tails or an ear or something walking by, that's the big Duke. He's the shop dog, the big German Shepherd shop dog. Anybody who's come to study with me knows Duke. So I need something to hold it at the correct angle. Yes, sir. Another question.
Matt says, does that angle matter to hard or soft wood, or is it all purpose?
Mine's pretty much general purpose. However, it does matter. But you can change the angle of the bed of the plane. For example, you have a low angle block plane, you have a higher angle block plane, you have something like a smoother, which is a high angle, where it's set on the frog of the plane. And yes, that makes a difference. That's a little bit beyond the scope of what I wanted to go in here in the sharpening class, is the angle that the blade attacks the wood. For your end grain, for example, you would like a higher set to your angle. And you can do that through the way that the plane is set, or whether the iron is set onto the frog of the plane, or you can re-hone your angle to adjust. A good example of that, let me grab something off camera here and I'll show you. This is the Neilson low angle jack plane. And you'll notice that the angle is very low. And you can buy from Neilson, this is a multi-purpose plane. You can buy different blades with different angles already honed into them. So it makes it a higher set, and you can use it on end grain. But in general, you want a higher angle for going across end grain. A lot of times I use my low angle block plane. It seems to work well as your highly figured woods as well. You know, if you have a higher set going across the bird's eye maple, stuff like that, it tends to tear out more. But yeah, now we're getting into plane terminology and how planes actually work, which once again is a little bit beyond the scope of what I'm trying to do here this morning. Right now I'm just trying to teach you how to put an edge on there. So I've got to find some way to keep that at the correct angle. And I showed you just a little bit ago, right here, these little stops that I have on the side of my breadboard here. And when I was using this type of honing guide, I think I got this at Woodcraft or something years ago. It's very easy to set up because you just take your, I've got 20 degree, 30 degree, and 35 degree set up here. And it's very easy to just take your blade and set it up there, for example, 35 degree, and then just take your honing guide, put it over the top of it, and then lock it in, and you're ready to go. So that's a very easy way of doing it. However, I'm going to show you a honing guide that I've switched to about 10 years ago, and I've stopped using these. Another question. Yes, sir.
So Travis Merrill said, I arrived late. Is that a diamond plate?
Yes, it is a diamond plate. And by the way, I will be replaying this video. It's got a link. And so I'll post a link after we're all done here. So if you happen to join the chat a little bit late, that's fine. And you can go back and watch it until I actually remove it from Facebook or from YouTube. So I'm going to introduce you to this honing guide. This is the Veritas honing guide. This one's about 10 or 12 years old, and they've upgraded them and done some other things. The interesting thing about this is you've got green, yellow, and red, and you can change the angle. For a high angle, I believe is red. The standard angles is yellow, and the back bevel, if you ever want to put a back bevel on your chisel plane, you can. You go down to green. And then what you do is you take this little thing here, and it keeps the blade square as you put it into the honing guide. Also helps you maintain the correct angle. Since I'm starting with my, what is this? This is my spoke shave blade. I set this up for about 2 inches, which is about the width of that blade, and then turn the plane, or turn the guide over and put the blade in there, like so, and then just push it right up against that stop right there that I've set to 35 degrees. Make sure it's square on the... All right.
Hold on.
Get it back in there. All right, folks, we're back. I don't know what happened there, but apparently we had to click on resume, so I don't know if it timed out.
It crashed. YouTube app crashed.
The YouTube app crashed. Okay. Let's see. Are we back up? An error occurred. Please try again later. Let's see. Click on it. Back now. All right, we're back. Jago, am I back?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, because I don't have anything showing up over here. Anyway, so you guys can see what's going on. Are we good? Are we good, guys? All right, I'm refreshing. Oh, there we go. I think we're back, aren't we?
Yes, we're all good. We're online.
Oh, wow, we're back. Holy cow, folks. Well, there's one of the issues with doing this live. I've heard that there's so many people at home using the internet now that things are crashing constantly, and that's probably what went on here. But we're back, and so we're having some cheese bread and coffee, and we're sharpening tools. I was just introducing the Veritas honing guide here, and the reason why I like this little Veritas honing guide is, like I showed you, this little piece slides on here, then you place your blade in, and it goes right into there to the angle that you've predetermined. Also, it keeps it square, and then you remove that to do your honing. Yes, sir, we have a question.
No, it's not a question. I don't know what it is, but someone pointed out in the chat saying better quality video now. And I also noticed that your hand movements aren't fading. Okay. So it's all up to time, up to date.
Okay, so go tell Marcia to get off the internet. Maybe that's helping.
No, it's all good. Everything's good now.
Fala para ela diz again.
Papa.
Okay, another reason why I like the Veritas honing guide is because it's got this little dial here on the side that after you work on your primary bevel, then you just take it and turn it like that, and it changes the angle about a degree or two and allows you to work on the secondary bevel. I'm going to put it back because we're going into the primary bevel, which is just the full angle there that I predetermined, in this case 35 degrees. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to my diamond stone here because I think the diamond stone goes a little bit quicker and I don't have to flatten it. So I'm going to come in like this. Off camera before we started, I went ahead and did the primary bevel with the extra coarse. So I've already determined the angle and ground that. All I have to do now is just hone the scratches out of it. So we're all good, folks?
There's a buzzing sound in the room that's still buzzed at maybe 2 microphones.
Yeah, someone said that someone's getting that, but no, it might, they either have 2 windows open of the same stream, or they might just need to refresh the stream.
Okay, so try refreshing, see if that happens. All right. And the nice thing about having a towel on your bench here is that you can just pull it off of here and just wipe it on the towel and check it. And I need to do a little bit more to get that primary bevel. And the primary bevel is the big bevel. You've got a large flat area. And you don't have to get too fancy with that. Some people even started extra coarse and they only hone the secondary bevel up to the extra fine. Another question.
Okay, so it is confirmed. Steve Ross said, problem was on my end. I ended up with 2 browser windows.
There you go. So if anybody has 2 browser windows open now, just close one of them. There you go. Steve, good to hear from you, man. How's life treating you? Hope everything's good in your neck of the woods there.
Miguel says, hi, buddy. Chupa Corona.
That's Miguel down in Brazil. Miguel, you're going through some tough times right now, too, down there. So I hope everything's okay with you. All right, so this is the coarse stone, not the extra coarse. And I'm not going to get too carried away with it because this is just a primary bevel. And so let me see if I can show you what this looks like in the camera. And here we go. I've got a delay of about 5 or 10 seconds on my end here. So let me see if I can see it in my, there we go. So you got a large flat area there. And looks like I've come about halfway across. I need to do just a little bit more over here to make it worth my while to get that whole thing flat. So let me just do that real quick. If anybody's got a joke, now would be the time. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I told you the one about the priest and the rabbi sitting on the park bench. But I don't know if I can tell that one today because maybe that's not a good one for mixed company here. Anybody that's ever come and studied with me, they know about all these jokes. They start out bad and go downhill fast. By the end of the week, the students are begging me, my God, please stop. And they get on the plane and go home and say, gee, I'm glad that's over. Yes, sir, you got another question for me?
Okay, so it's not a question, but Mark O'Neill wanted to mention we are planning on going in Golden in our travel trailer this summer. So hopefully nothing changes our plans and you can reach out and at least say hi. You and your family stay safe.
That would be great. All depends on what we're doing and when you're coming through. But we got to get together at least for some cheese bread and a cup of coffee. Now, I have found that when you're honing that primary bevel and also when you're flattening the back of the tool, that it usually gets completely flat or completely honed right before your arms want to fall off. So let's see if I'm going to have that kind of luck here today. That's looking a lot better. I'm almost all the way over to this edge right here. I got just a little bit more to go to make it worth my while to get all the way over there. So here we go some more. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit because I was trying to go a little slower because of the delay and the latency here on the technology. We can only do so much with the technology we have here. Yes, sir. Another question.
Todd Martin said, even pressure on forward and back strokes.
Even pressure. Yes, sir.
And Paco Chirobo is in chat.
Paco, saludos desde Colorado. How are you doing over there? Tell Miss Spain we said hello.
Someone has a joke.
Uh-oh, we got a joke. Here we go. What we got?
It's Drew Boyd. Drew Boyd said, I have a good joke about peanut butter, but you have to promise not to spread it.
Oh, there you go. If you need to, add a little bit of moisture to keep things going here. That's a good one, Drew. I like that one.
You better write that down.
Almost reminds me of the swimming pool hair one.
Now you can talk about it.
I'll tell that one here in a little bit. All right. Now, if this was a regular water stone, I would have already been flattening it because my roller here and the grinding would have created a low spot there, and it winds up taking this thing out of flatness here and out of square. So that's another benefit of the diamond stones. I use a combination here of diamond and water stones, like I told you. Although I was taught just to use water stones, and I used that for a number of years. All right, that's probably good enough here. Yep, I'm all the way over across there. So now I'm going to go to the secondary bevel. If you wanted to, and if it's just a badge of courage or badge of honor for you, if you want to hone that primary bevel all the way up to 8,000 grit and make it a mirror, you certainly can. However, in my opinion, you're wasting time. It doesn't need to be done. The only thing that needs to be done is right on the edge here. And so what I'm going to do, because this particular tool has that feature of being able to roll that thing a little bit, and it raises it up and gets me just right on the business edge, I can now do the secondary bevel on the water stones. So I've done all the way up to coarse with the diamond stones. Now I'm going to jump up into now with the water stones, and you want to keep them moist. This is the 4,000 grit, and I'm going to come in and just hone that secondary bevel there. So, do we have another comment?
Yes.
All right.
Jason Brown says, how long will the sharpened edge last?
It depends on how much you use it. I find that I can build a complete guitar with one student without sharpening the tools. Perhaps I'll need to sharpen the scraper, and we're going to get into sharpening scrapers here in a little bit. Perhaps I'll need to sharpen the scraper a time or two throughout the build, but normally I can get through a whole guitar without having to come back and resharpen it. Occasionally I'll strop my chisel if I need to right before I do my neck carving. Now, we've already done extra coarse and coarse. I'm jumping into 4,000 grit, which is fine, and I'm just honing the business end, which is, the terminology for that is the secondary bevel. Let's see if I can get this to show up on camera here. And what you'll see there is just like a 1/16 of an inch, maybe a 32nd, right across the front edge there. It's really not very much. And that's the only thing that you really have to get highly polished. The primary bevel is the large bevel. You don't need to do that. Just wasting time. I'm going to go ahead and jump all the way up to the 8,000 grit, and now I should see a mirror on the business end of this tool. And I want to see it go all the way across the tool. Shouldn't take very much. We got another question. Go ahead.
Okay, so Musical Mr. Mills has a question. On water stones going up to 1,000 for primary bevel,
yep,
then moving higher for the secondary bevel,
yes,
will that work perfectly fine?
Yes, and that's exactly what I've done here, except I did the diamond stones, but I did extra coarse and coarse on the primary, and then I'm switched to the water stones to do the 4,000 and the 8,000 just on the secondary bevel there, which is the business end. And I've got just a little bit more to go to get right out here to the edge. But it's just the last little, maybe 32nd to 1/16 of an inch is what I'm trying to hone all the way up to that mirror finish. It's also good sometimes to just take your stones and turn them around. That way they wear a little more evenly. I tend to also kind of go diagonal across the stone as well as along the width or the length of it. So I kind of even out the forces on it and get it to wear evenly. All right, let's take a look at that. There we go. We got a nice mirror finish right on that business end there. That looks really good. Goes almost all the way out to the edge there. I'm going to stop there for the sake of time here, but ideally you want it to go all the way out to the edge of the tool, and you want it to be uniform along there and nice and square. And hopefully you guys can see that. I know we're limited as far as technology here, but let me see if I can get just a little bit closer to the camera. Yes, sir. Question?
So Davia says, any benefit in going higher than 8K?
You know, I find I can cut myself pretty quickly and easily with 8,000, and that gets it all the way up to a mirror finish. So I usually stop at 8. If you wanted to go higher, you could. I think you're just kind of doing overkill at that point, but that's open for debate. Something else I like to do when I get all done is just very lightly hit the back side there on the 8,000. If there's any little burr that I've rolled over on the back side, then I quickly get rid of that. And there we go. And that's ready to be set back up. That's something else I wanted to show you today is how to set up your tools. I won't do it with the spoke shave. I'll just put that back in there. Let me sharpen another tool, and I'll show you how to set things up. Yes, sir. Another question.
Steve would like to know do the diamond stones go all the way up to 8K grit?
They go up to extra fine, and I find that they don't quite get the mirror finish on it that the water stones do. So I prefer to finish it off with water stones. Okay. Yes, sir.
Jeff says, with my low angle block plane blade being level up, should I do a secondary bevel or not?
I don't do a secondary bevel. When you say secondary bevel, I think you mean a back bevel on the back side of the blade. I do not do that. By the way, that's the difference between a block plane and a bench plane. A block plane has the bevel up. A bench plane has the bevel down. So bevel up is classified as a block plane. And since I have the block plane taken apart here, I'm going to go ahead and quickly show you how to sharpen it. This is just maintenance sharpening at this point. The spoke shave that I just showed you was more of a almost start from scratch because I wanted to change the angle on it. But I'm going to sharpen this block plane real quick, and it's already been done. So it's just kind of maintenance at this point. I lightly hit the back side, and I'm over on the edge of the stone here. Since I did quite a bit of grinding there, I'm going to go ahead and flatten my stone again. So come in like so, and I'm going to use just the Norton flattening stone here. And you can see what I've done there. It's not flat in the middle. So you can see how quickly these things get out of flat. And I'm going to do this off camera here so I don't get so much debris and stuff on my board there, on my work board. But you want to flatten these things often so you keep your tools nice and flat and square. There we go. There's the 8,000. I'm going to do the 4,000 as well. Make sure everything stays nice and flat. Once again, I'm going off camera for this. I just got a bucket of water over here that I'm doing it over so I don't drip so much onto my work board there. There we go. And you can see now that this is flat as well. So this block plane that I'm getting ready to do is just maintenance at this point. And I've already got my honing guide from Veritas set up to 35 degrees. So come in here like so, slap this piece on here. There's a little thing here that tells you 1 inch, 2 inch, 2.5. And so this is about, a little less than 2 maybe. Turn it over, slide the plane blade in, slide it right up to your stop there, which is 35 degrees. Slide it over here with this, which is square, and then tighten it with these little set screws here. And then remove this piece. Now you're set up and ready to go, 35 degrees. Once again, this is just maintenance, so I'm going to start with the 4,000. And I've already got this little thing dialed in just to work on the secondary bevel. Once you flatten the back of the tool, and once you dial in your primary bevel, you should never have to do that again unless you drop your tool. And that's a very bad day. So try not to let that happen to you. And then that way you just have to work on the secondary bevel. And you can sharpen. I usually sharpen my whole arsenal here in about 20, 30 minutes because it's just maintenance. So just run it 10, 20 times here across the 4,000. And we got a question here.
Yes, Mark Dawson just joined and said, do you use a leather strop?
Yes, and I'm going to come into that at the very end here. I'll show you the leather strop. All right, so there's our 4,000, and it's just right across the front edge there. Now I'm jumping into the 8,000, and it's also just right across the front edge, just the primary bevel. Another question?
Not a question.
I said primary bevel, excuse me. I meant to say secondary bevel. It's just the business end. Go ahead, Chago.
Okay, not a question, but I'm listening to the stream as well, and I hear buzzing.
Yeah?
It sounds like some sort of a light buzzing. You can hear it in the shop right now.
Okay, well, I don't know what it is because I don't have any lights on near the camera.
Anyone on the stream, if it's bothering you, just let us know.
Perhaps it's the
lights.
No, the charger to the camera.
Oh.
Yep, so if you unplug that, that would take care of it.
Sure.
All right, so that's probably got it. Go ahead and pop it out of here. And then I've got a nice secondary bevel there that's a mirror finish. And I go ahead and put it back into the tool here. Remember that's bevel up, on the block plane. And go ahead and place that in there. Put the cap back on. Another question.
I don't know how to pronounce this name, but Elk C. Plana says, when is recommended to work on the primary bevel?
Never, just when you get it out of the box. That's the only time I work on it, is when I get it right out of the box. I will work on the primary bevel, flatten the back first. That's the first step. Second step, work on the primary bevel. After that, third step, secondary bevel. And if you take good care of your tools, don't drop them and let, get dings and nicks in them. Don't try and do staples or nails in the wood. Then you should just have to work on the secondary bevel from that point forward. All right, I mentioned that I would show you how to set up a hand plane. Let me quickly show you how to do that. Chago, you want to bring the camera over this way?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
All right, folks. Sorry about that. We almost lost the camera out of the tripod there. There we go. All right, so can we see this area here now?
Hold on. There we go. That should be good.
All right. So this is a plane that I've already sharpened. Once you get your blade back in there, what you want to do is hold it over a block of wood. Start on the left-hand side of the blade and try and take a pass, and nothing comes out. Let me try and get all the debris out of there so nothing will fool me there. And then I go to the right side of the blade, and nothing comes out. And then I go down the center of the blade, and nothing comes out. If something's coming out on the right or the left, then I know that I'm not in there square. So I need to do something to get it square. Use your lever here to adjust it. So I'm going to slowly run the blade out until I get some contact somewhere. And sometimes you sneak right up on it. Sometimes it takes a little time. There we go. So I got just a little bit out on that left side there. And I expect to have the same thing happen if I go over to the right side. If not, I'm not in there square. And see that? I'm not in there square. So I'm going to bump it just a little bit here with my lateral adjustment. Come in and hit the right side now. And that was a lot. Let's move it back just a little bit. Get the debris out of there. Here we go. Left-hand side. Got just a very small shaving. Right-hand side. A little bit there. Let's adjust it just a little bit more. Ideally, you want the same thickness of shaving coming off both sides and the middle. There we go. Right side. Not quite there. So left side, nothing. Left side, there we go. Right side, nothing. Go back just a little bit. Right side, left side, down the middle. So I think we're just about square in there now. Left side again. Let me get all the debris out of here so you can see this. Left side, right side, and down the middle. There we go. So that tells me that we are in there square, and I've got just the right amount out. So that's after you put your plane blade together, how you check the squareness of it. All right, Chuck, move the camera back over here for us, please, sir. Let's let my cameraman get squared away here, and we'll jump into another tool. I want to show you how to do a chisel as well, and that's going to involve a little bit of stropping. So let me just quickly show you how to do that. You can come up and look on me here for a minute, Chago.
Yep.
I hope this is being beneficial for you folks. If you just can't control yourselves, I have a video on my website called Sharpening. And you're welcome to purchase that. And I go a little bit more in detail on how to sharpen your tools. I start with actual doing the flat back and the primary bevel and the secondary bevel. And I show basically the tools I show here, the ones that I use mostly in lutherie. And also, I would certainly appreciate it, and I know the Ukulele Kids Club would also appreciate it if you would just click on the donate button. It's theukc.org/donations, and just send them a few bucks, because they do a lot of great work for kids that have some serious health issues, and with the musical therapy and providing ukuleles in hospitals and stuff. So it's a really, really great cause. We got another question there, Chago?
Fred Patton said, so if I can't make these adjustments with the lockdown, does that just mean the screw is too tight? I think this might be why I have some I think it saves so much trouble setting up planes.
Yeah, probably the screw's too tight on the cap there. Loosen that screw. You shouldn't have to kill it. Shouldn't have to kill it. All right, Chuck, we're going back down here. I'm setting up my hand plane here, or excuse me, my chisel. This is a 1-inch wide chisel. This happens to be a Stanley. I bought these about 30 years ago for probably $50 for the set. And man, what a great set of chisels. I've used these for things forever. All right, so once again, I'm doing just maintenance here, which means that I can just jump right into my 4,000 stone, put a little bit of moisture on it, and I'm going to come in, just hone that front edge there, the secondary bevel. About 10 or 20 times, if you do this often, you really don't have a lot of work. Like I said, I can sharpen my whole arsenal of tools here in about 20 to 30 minutes if you're just doing the maintenance stuff. Another question.
I don't know exactly what Jim Gammon is trying to say. Hopefully you can understand. But he says, pass down the middle, question mark. If the shaving is down the middle, the iron is centered.
That's correct. So you want to do it the left-hand side, right-hand side, and down the middle, you want to see the same thickness of shaving on all three locations on your block of wood. That way you know that you're in there square. If you're cutting heavy on the left and nothing on the right, then you're not in there square, and vice versa. Yes, sir.
Chipwood says, spoke shaves have bevel up or down?
Well, this spoke shave has a bevel up. Hang on, let me see. Take it apart here. Nope, bevel down. Spoke shave bevel down. There we go. All right, so I hit the chisel real quick on the 4,000. Now I'm going to hit it on the 8,000. See how quick this goes if you do your prep work properly? It just goes super quick. And on my chisels, I like to strop them. On my hand planes, I do not. It's very easy to roll over the front edge and lose some of your sharpness. So on my hand planes, I don't strop, but I will on my chisel, and I'll show you how to do that now. So we've got that sharpened, and I've got a secondary bevel there. It's a nice mirror finish. So we're now ready to strop that. Sometimes there's a little burr that gets rolled over on the back side of the chisel, and you can strop both sides real quickly, and it takes care of that. And you got a really nice cutting edge there. So Chuck, I want you to come down over here to the vise again with the camera, and I'll show you guys how I strop. So a strop is just a fancy word for a piece of leather glued to a stick. That's all that means. So I've got my strop here. It's just a piece of leather on there. And I've got some honing compound, and you can buy the honing compound, and you can buy commercial strops if you want to from luthier supply warehouses or woodworking supply warehouses. What I do is I just take the back side of the tool, place it on there, and just rub it along there a few times. It gets a nice polished edge or back on there. And then on the front side, this is where it gets tricky. You turn it over and you want to find the cutting edge. So when you find the cutting edge, if you just pull your hands back, you have a tendency to round that over. So the idea is just take a step back from the bench, and I don't know if this is going to show up on camera here, but I just find the edge there, and then I just take a step back from the bench. And I walk back into the bench, and then find the angle, take a step back. I don't get too carried away with this because it's really easy to round over that front edge. But the trick here is find the angle and then take a step back from the bench. Now you've got a nice cutting edge that's ready to go in carbon neck. All right, Chuck, I'm going to come back over here if you want to move the camera over. You also got a question for me?
I do. Hold on a second.
All right. One other thing I wanted to show you guys today as I take another sip of coffee and have a piece of cheese bread here is how to sharpen a scraper. Scraper is a very useful tool. Boy, this is wonderful. I wish you guys could enjoy this with me. Quick question.
Okay, so Dumping Guitar said, just told my wife I need a dog like yours to achieve perfect sharpening. Idea didn't fly.
Yeah, well, there's Duke right behind me here. Is he on camera?
No.
How you doing, big boy? Can you get him on camera there?
There he is.
Hey, Duke, how you doing, buddy? Hey, O'Seal? Yeah, Duke's the quality control guy here. Here, come here. Duke's the quality control guy here in the shop. And boy, he just gives you all kinds of thumbs up, tells you you're doing it right if you just keep the dog biscuits flowing. There you go. Look at that. All right, you go lay down there, buddy. Duke is, for anybody who's ever met Duke, he's bilingual. He speaks Portuguese and English. and make sure we get everything right here in the shop. All right, I'm going to show you how to sharpen a scraper. Question?
Bruce said, what is your opinion on the sharpening system?
Sure, that's fine. I mean, there's, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's many ways to sharpen tools. Find a way that works for you and go with it. The Scary Sharp, the Work Sharp, the Tormac, or whatever you call it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Some people have carpal tunnel issues and stuff, and so they have to use some type of a machine to do it, and that's fine. I tend not to grind the primary bevel. I don't like the hollow grind because the round wheel leaves a hollow grind on there and it makes the tip a little brittle. So I tend to shy away from that. But yeah, find something that works for you and go with that. So scraper is a very, very useful tool when sharpening tools. And I want to very quickly show you how to do this. And this has probably been way longer than what we've needed to go here. But I hope I've introduced you to a little bit of how to sharpen tools. So we'll start with the scraper. As soon as we get a question answered, go ahead.
So Heidi said, have you tried the Work Sharp?
I have not. I think Heidi has the Work Sharp system.
She says that my hands are very bad, and the Work Sharp does make it easier.
That's right. I remember when I was in Heidi's shop way up there in Prince Edward Island, Canada, she had gotten that system and she introduced me to it. And yeah, it's a fantastic system. And a lot of times, carpal tunnel issue, bad hands and stuff, arthritis, whatever. Yeah, just find a way that works for you. So I'm not opposed to that at all. This is just what I was taught, and this is what I'm passing on to you guys. Okay, so come on down here, Chago. Let me start down here. I'm going to show you how to sharpen a scraper. Scraper is just a hunk of metal. You put a burr on it, and it allows you to work as like a microplane. It's a fantastic tool. Whoever invented this should be, on my Christmas card list or on your Christmas card list. You should also maybe even get a Nobel Prize because, man, this is just a fantastic tool. However, like most hand tools, if you got beads of sweat pouring down your forehead and veins popping out, something's wrong. Either the tool needs to be sharpened and set up properly, or there's something wrong with your technique. And boy, is that true with the scraper. You can work yourself to dadgum death if you don't have it set up properly and know how to use it. So here we go. I'm going to do, once again, maintenance on this. Well, no, I'll tell you what. I'll take it all the way back to the very beginning. Let's just pretend that this is a tool that I've just pulled out of the box. I would probably start with the coarse. And what I'm going to do is just put a little moisture on here. And this goes very quickly, so bear with me here, folks. You want to come in, and let's start with the top of it here. And this is why I like diamond stones for doing the scrapers, because the card scraper will leave all kinds of ridges in these soft water stones. So I prefer to go right with the diamond stones. You don't have to sharpen them, or excuse me, flatten them, and they don't leave ridges. So I'm going to start just by holding this thing at 90 degrees to the surface and going across it about 10 or 15 times. I'm going to flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. And then as I grind the metal down here, it likes to create a little burr there. So I'm going to flatten that and get that out of the way. Both sides and both edges. And then I'm going to jump over and do the same thing on the coarse once again. Flip it over to the other side, 90 degrees, to your stone. Knock the burr off. Both sides, both edges. And then I'm going to do that again with the fine and extra fine. So here we are all the way up into the fine. Here's the extra fine. And once again, 90 degrees. Flip it over 90 degrees. I've seen people also do this with a file. If you want to run a file at 90 degrees across the surface, you certainly can. And I did that for a number of years. All right, and then I'm jumping over to the extra fine, 90 degrees. Same thing here. And some people even like to come in and soften those edges there. So if you want to do something like this, soften those edges so that you don't catch an edge when you're scraping your bindings on your soft spruce or cedar top. That's a real bummer when that happens. Happened to a friend of mine once, and boy, is it a bummer. So if you want to soften those edges, you certainly can. All right, Chago, I need you to come get behind the camera again here. I'm going to jump over to my vise and show you how to put an edge on that now. There we go. So we're jumping over here to the vise. What I do is I come in and just clamp that up in my vise. And then I take this little tool here. What the heck is the name of this? Somebody put in the chat group. I forgot the name of this thing. What's the name of this thing? Burnisher. There we go. It's a burnisher. So what you do is you take your burnisher. If you want to rub a little bit of the O'Brien Guitars Lutherie wax on there, boy, it makes this thing go a little bit easier. Also makes your guitar sound better. Has to be the O'Brien Guitars Lutherie wax though. And just run over the top of it at 90 degrees and do that about 10, 15, 20 times. And then this is where the rubber meets the road, is to roll that hook over. How far you roll the hook over, how big of an angle, is going to determine how you work with the tool. Let's pretend this is a scraper. If you get that hook rolled over too far, then you're now working with your tool laying down like this, and it's not comfortable. You want to be able to push your tool into the work. Question, yes?
Heidi says, love those diamond stones. Are they costly?
Yes, they are costly. These are DMT stones, and they went on sale here a few months ago, and I picked up a whole new set. Find them when they go on sale. They're great stones. So to roll the burr over, I'm going to put one on each edge. Some people put a 45-degree bevel here and just roll one big burr over. I'm going to put one on each side. So what I do is I take my burnisher, roll it about 5 degrees, not very much. Run it up and down the scraper like that. About 10 or 12 times is probably good. Roll it the other way about 5 degrees. Don't get too big an angle on there because the tool will not be comfortable to work with. I'm going to turn it over to do the same thing on the other side as Thiago feeds me another question.
Okay, Kevin says, what is the brand name and model of the Honing Guide angle jig? Where is it available?
The honing guide that I used, yes, that is the this came from Veritas, and it is the what I think they call it the MK2. This one is an older model. I think they've done some upgrades to it since I've gotten this one, but that's a really nice thing for setting up your angle and keeping things square as you're working. So it came from Veritas. All right, so I turned it over, doing the same thing on the other side. Just run it 10, 15, 20 times across the top to create a little metal burr. Roll it over about 5 degrees on one side. Roll it over about 5 degrees on the other side. There we go. And if you did it properly, you should feel a burr there. And if you come in and scrape, you've got yourself a little hook on there that works great. So with the scraper, the technique is important. Once again, I said if you get that burr too big of an angle, then you're going to be working like this. That's not comfortable. It's also a good way to scrape your knuckles up. You want to work like this, and I like to flex it a little bit as I work, like so. And the cool thing about the scraper is it leaves a nice smooth finish. And if it ever gets dull, you can just come in and take your burnisher, roll the burr down, and then roll it back over, and you don't have to sharpen it again for a couple, 3 times. You can re-hone or re-burnish it and get a great edge on it again without having to go back to your stones. Okay, Thiago, bring the camera back over here. Feed me another question.
Okay.
Go ahead and put the camera up here on my face.
So Jason Brown would like to know.
Mm-hmm.
Here, let me check the comment. Oh, okay. Do I need to use a burnisher to get a hook on the scraper, or will a screwdriver work?
A screwdriver shaft will also work, yes. Basically, you just want, Thiago, put the camera on my face. Basically, you just want some type of metal that is harder than the scraper metal. And I have found that using a burnisher, this is a commercial burnisher, but I used a screwdriver shaft for a number of years, and that worked great. So let's recap what we've done here, folks. We have, I've introduced to you my sharpening station here. I've talked about the diamond stones. I've talked about the water stones. You need to flatten those water stones. Do it periodically throughout your sharpening process. Make sure that they stay flat. Very important with water stones. Hang on just a second. I'll get that question. I've introduced you to honing guides. I used just the generic kind for years and years and years, and I showed you those little stops on the side of my work surface here to get your correct angle if you want to. These days, and for about the last 10 or 12 years, I've been using the Veritas honing guide. I showed you how to get your bevel on there. I use a 35 degree for the primary bevel. Oh, going back to the steps. Step number 1, flatten the back of the tool. Chisel, hand plane, spoke shave, whatever. Step number 2, primary bevel, and I showed you how to do that using the honing guide with a combination of diamond stones and water stones. And then step number 3, secondary bevel. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's the business end of the tool. That's what you actually want to spend your time on, getting it sharp. And if you did everything properly, that should be a breeze. It's just that last little 32nd or 16th of an inch on the tool. I also showed you how to prepare a scraper as if it were right out of the box, and how to roll over the hook and the burr, and how to use it. So I hope this has been useful. We've been at this for, what, about an hour? Oh, we got a question. Go ahead.
We've been at this for an hour and 15 minutes.
Hour and 15 minutes. So a lot longer than what I thought we were going to go, but hey, I'm glad this has been useful. Go ahead.
So Noah says, do you ever use a scraper that is rounded / shaped, not rectangular?
Yes, I do. Let me pull one out of my drawer here. There we go. This is one that used to look like this. And, well, you can't see that, can you? Put it down here. Put it down here on my work surface. So this one here. Can you see that now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one here used to look like this. And what I've done on this one, this is how I was taught how to sharpen scrapers, is round it a little bit. And then I would walk over to my belt sander. Let's pretend that's a belt sander. And I would just put it at a 45-degree angle and just do that. I wouldn't hone it at all. And then I would just roll it over. And for, a rough cut scraper on rosewood or rough wood, it works great. However, if you're going to go to ebony or spruce and do some type of finish scraping, it's going to leave these little scratches and lines and troughs in your wood because I never honed it. I just rolled it over. So, but that works great, and it puts a big burr on one edge, and it's pretty aggressive actually for doing rough cut wood. These days, I prefer to do it like this because I'm doing a lot of fine scraping and finish work with it. Okay, question?
Okay, Najera Guitar says, how different is the sharpening process for the curved shaped scrapers?
So something like this. For something like this, you can actually run it to your belt sander and keep it 90 degrees to like a disc sander or something like this. And then just roll the hook down and then just roll it back over with your burnisher. So it's the same process. It just happens to be rounded. Okay?
Another question from Chip Wood. Can you use the sandpaper method on the scrapers?
Sure. You certainly could. Just come in, do like this, and then flatten it and roll the burr over. It's a little harder to do with this, unless you can find some way. I usually do these on my belt sander. I have a disc sander, and it's really easy to keep it 90 degrees. If you just run it around your disc sander like that. Okay?
Joe says, how much pressure do you put on the burnisher?
Not a lot. I mean, you could just do it one-handed if you wanted to. It's not a lot of pressure. Okay?
Okay, Fernando says, in case I can't find a burnisher, can a carbide router bit shank be used?
I guess it could. Don't cut yourself, though, on the business end of the router. Yeah, just something that's harder than the metal of the scraper. And a screwdriver shaft works great for that.
By the way, I would just like to mention we have around 125 people in here.
Wow.
All saying thank you.
Wow, that's great. I hope everybody's found this useful, Thiago. I hope that everybody has found this useful. Once again, I'm donating my time here to benefit the Ukulele Kids Club. So please support this. It's a fantastic charity. Jay Litke, my buddy in North Carolina, turned me on to them a couple of years ago. And let's do everything we can to help support them. It's the word the, THE, ukc.org/donations. And that will take you right to the donation page. You can, however much you're able to give will be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. If you want to learn more about the Ukulele Kids Club, just go out to theukc.org and you can read all about them. They're worldwide. Do a lot of great help based right there in Florida. Also, I would like to mention, now that everybody is quarantined, there's a lot of time on our hands, a lot of things to do. I'm offering a 10% discount on all of my online courses for the next week. So all you have to do is type in the word quarantine, and you don't have to remember how to spell that. It's on my website. When you go to my website, o'brienguitars.com/courses, it'll take you to my online course page. You can choose the course you want. When you go through the checkout, just type in the word quarantine, which is already spelled for you there on the page, and then you'll get a 10% discount. And that will help support me in this time as well. Yes, another question.
Here's a couple of nice comments. Jeff says, awesome info, Robbie. Great cause also. Hopefully I will see you for the classical voicing class if the world gets back to normal.
Yeah, the world's a little crazy right now. I've had quite a few people cancel here, and I've still had some people come and study with me, so I greatly appreciate those that are making the effort. Just got done building a guitar last week with somebody, so I certainly appreciate the effort. But I want everybody out there to stay safe and stay sharp. It's important. We've all heard that a sharp tool is a safe tool, and a dull tool is you have to use more effort and you wind up hurting yourself with it. So don't let that happen to you. One more question. Go ahead.
Okay, so Steve says, thanks to Robbie and family for offering this. And now I know what the UKC is and made a small donation. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Steve. I certainly appreciate that. Anybody who is able to, please make a donation. I'm sure that the Ukulele Kids Club will greatly appreciate it. And thank you very much for tuning in. I used to do live streams about 10 years ago, believe it or not. This is back when live streaming wasn't popular. I would do live streamings out of my shop one day a week or every other week. And I'd just do a Q&A session. And perhaps I'll start that up again. We'll see how it goes. This one seems to went very well, except for that little glitch we had there in the middle where everything crashed. But I think we're good. One more question, then we got to call it.
A couple more things. Drew Boyd also just donated. Chip Wood just donated. Musical Mr. Mills will be contacting UKC.
Great.
And everyone else is saying thank you so much.
Fantastic. Mission accomplished, folks. Thank you very much for supporting me. Thank you very much for supporting the Ukulele Kids Club. Stay safe. Work sharp. Happy building, folks. I think we put Duke to sleep.